Good evening, everyone. 7 p.m. Tuesday, November 19th. So I'm going to get started with just a few little cleanup areas that I want to go into as far as your exams and assignments, and quite a bit of that information I want to discuss first. So remember, when you all are taking your exam, if you're seeing that answers are marked wrong that you know are correct, remember that I have to go into the system manually and check those grades. The exams are due on Sunday. Remember, I have more than one class. So as soon as you take your exam, doesn't mean that I'm able to go right in and check your exams or your assignments. So remember to not become alarmed when you look at a grade and you might have like a F and it might actually be a C or a B. And especially like I gave that example before, local and start, if you put a capital L and they have it as a small L, or if you put a small S and it's a capital S, it'll be marked wrong. So I have to go in and manually update and change it in the system. So a lot of times, even with the labs, with the exams, if you might see that you might have a code as 6012 and it's 6014 or whatever, I'll still mark it as correct because you're in the range. You're in that range. So, but unless if it's a 60122 and you were at 9 something, I'm going to mark it wrong because you're not in the right area. But for simple errors, like with a code, if you're one number or even 2 or 3 numbers off, I still will mark it correct because you're in school. You're learning how to code. So I do give credit and I do give extra points. If it's something that I know was complicated and you get it right, you might get an extra 5 points or something like that. So please do not become alarmed. You do not have to be perfect. You are learning the process. You are learning. So it doesn't have to be to the T, but if you're in that range and you know exactly what it is, I'm going to give you credit. As far as your assignments, quite a few people didn't do day 10 assignment for their daily assignments. I'm constantly, like I said, opening and giving people extra days to complete assignments, and the assignments are not being completed. So if you ask me to open an assignment and you ask me to give you until the weekend to complete it, I will do that. But then if you ask me on a Monday and I give you until that Sunday to complete an assignment, and then you do not complete it, which is 7 additional days from when it was due, you will receive a 0. I cannot continue to go over and over. I have been opening so many assignments that I'm getting delayed with actually checking your daily assignments because so many people are asking to reopen. And then I reopen the assignments and then they're not completed. And then, someone will call back saying, can I reopen them again? I will no longer be able to reopen assignments once you have asked me to open your assignment and you tell me the time that you need, and then you do not go in and complete those assignments. It's too time consuming. This chapter, like I said, chapter 15 that we start today, this exam is Friday. So with these chapters, you have to know like the basics on how to find the codes. It's not actually because you won't be doing any of these procedures, but you will need to know how to actually get to the area that you need to code. So be mindful of that. Make sure that you are paying attention to the assignments. So right now I'm going to share my screen to show you all. Some of you are not actually reading the assignments in its entirety. So when you're going on, when you're looking at the assignments, you're only doing part of it. So I only can give you part of the grade if you're not completing the entire assignment. For instance, for coursework here I'm gonna go back to day 10. I'm gonna do day 11. Okay, so this is what you would need to submit. So that was chapter 14. So I want to go back to show the one that a good bit of you only submitted one part of the assignment and not the other part of the assignment. Let's see. Okay, for this one, chapter 15 workbook. So you should be in your workbook, theory, musculoskeletal system, terminology. Submit. Read chapter 15 PowerPoint slides, explain the 3 main types of fracture coding's implication for each. Quite a few people only did this, explain the 3 main types of fracture coding. I have very few people who did the chapter 15 workbook theory. You have to know your terminology for musculoskeletal system. If you do not know the terminology, you will not be able to code correctly. I mean, out of all of my classes, I must have had so far, because you have until 11:55 to complete it, so far like 6 people only did both parts. So you're only going to get a partial grade because you didn't read in its entirety what you needed to submit. Your workbook is the same as your textbook, but on the book in your ebooks, it will say workbook. The textbook will say textbook. The workbook is a little thinner, and you're to do the workbook theory, terminology, which is very important, and then the second part. So please pay attention to what your assignments are. So now we're going to get started with chapter 15. Yesterday, your exam was open. That exam is due on by Sunday, 11:55 p.m. And then this chapter, the musculoskeletal system exam, is Friday. So this is really a 3.5-day chapter. And this exam is due on Friday. Well, it opens on Friday, but it is also due on Sunday, because it starts on Friday, so it can't go into that next week, because we start chapter 16 on Monday. So these chapters are very, very like fastly moving along. So please try to stay on target. But remember, chapter 15 exam is Friday. You still have your chapter 14 exam that is due on Sunday. So both exams will be due on Sunday. So try your best, if you can, to try and complete chapter 14 exam, because chapter 15 is due on Sunday as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Chapter 15, musculoskeletal system. Remember, at the end of the Zoom lecture, it will be posted in the grade section of e-learning labeled Zoom class. So it tells you here, procedures for the bones and muscles of the body are reported with codes from this large subsection. Your excellent medical terminology skill will get a good workout. So for this, you have to know your medical terminology. The doctor is not going to write out everything. It's going to be medical terminology that you will definitely need to know. So that's why it's important, and that's why I put on there for your assignment in your workbook the medical terminology that you all need to make sure that you become familiar with. So the chapter topics, the format of the musculoskeletal system, fractures and dislocations, general application of cast and strapping, endoscopy, arthroscopy, and your chapter review. So it's a very short chapter. It's a lot of information, but it's really short into what you all would need to know as far as billing and coding. Your learning objectives. Differentiate between fracture and dislocation treatment types. Understand types of traction. Identify services, procedures included in the general subheading. Analyze cast application and strapping procedures. Understand elements of arthroscopic procedures. Demonstrate the ability to code musculoskeletal services and procedures. So I've highlighted quite a bit of information on the main things you would need to know as a biller and coder. So these are the main things. So if you can highlight it in your book as well, because this is what you would definitely need to know when it comes to that NCCT certification exam. So I've highlighted some highlights that I know is on the exam and the information that you would need for your exam that's on Friday as well. The format. And in every chapter, you know, they always have a format, the subsections, the subheadings. So become familiar with all of those systems. So the format of the musculoskeletal system subsection is formatted, here we go again, by anatomic sites, such as general, head, and neck. The first subheading in this subsection is general, and it contains procedures that are applicable to many different anatomic sites. The other subheadings are further divided by anatomic site, procedure type, condition, and description. So when you're coding or when you have to build, this is how it's going to be broken down. It's divided by the anatomic site, the procedure type, which type of procedure it was, the condition of the site, and the description. So this usually includes incision, excision, introduction or removal, repair, revision and or reconstruction, fracture and or dislocation, arthrodesis, and amputation. Any or all of these categories of procedures may be located under each subheading. The codes in the musculoskeletal system subsection are reported extensively by orthopedic surgeons to describe the services provided to restore and preserve the function of the skeletal system. So I'm going to go over the part that's highlighted in yellow because this is the important part that you all will need to know in reference to the NCCT certification exam. I still want you all to read through the chapter, but also the parts that I have highlighted. Please highlight those sections as well, because this information is what you will find on your certification exam and on your exam for Friday. It says thorough review of the medical record will help you to identify key information necessary for coding. The following tips will help you to choose the most correct code from this subsection. So if you know this part, this is going to help you to dissect the correct coding format. Identify whether the procedure is being performed on soft tissue or bone. Many musculoskeletal system excision codes to report tumor excisions are based on if the tumor is of the subcutaneous, soft tissue tumors, below the skin, but above the deep fascia of subfacial soft tissue tumors, within or below deep fascia, but not involving bone, radical resection. So all of these things is going to determine which code you should use. So make sure that you're looking at this. This is being recorded, so you'll be able to go back and see on what is determined by. Careful readings of musculoskeletal section guidelines is a must before reporting excision of tumors. The second phase is you're going to determine whether treatment is for a traumatic injury, acute, or a medical condition, chronic. The diagnosis codes indicating acute or chronic must match the treatment codes. Identify the most specific anatomic site. For example, when coding vertebral procedures, it is necessary to know whether procedure was for cervical, thoracic, or lumbar vertebrae. Determine whether the code description includes grafting or fixation. These are some of your medical terminology, grafting and fixation. That's in your medical terminology that you would need to know the meaning. If grafting or fixation is not listed within the major procedure code description, each may be reported as an additional procedure. Read the code carefully to determine whether it describes a procedure that was on a single site. Example, each finger If the same procedure is performed on multiple sites, example, multiple fingers, you must indicate the number of units, such as 26060 times 2, or list the code multiple times. HCPCS modifiers are used to identify the digit treated, such as F6 for right hand. Second digit. Check any medical terms you do not understand in a medical dictionary or in the glossary at the back of the book. So they keep stressing how important it is in the musculoskeletal system to know your medical terminology. Fracture and dislocations. Again, look at the parts that I have highlighted. Fractures are coded by treatment, open, closed, or percutaneous. Open treatment of a fracture is made when a surgery is performed in which the fracture is exposed by an incision made over the fracture and the fracture bone is visualized. Closed treatment is performed when the physician repairs the fracture without directly visualizing the fracture. For instance, if a hip replacement arthroplasty is performed for medical reasons, such as osteoarthritis, it is reported with 27130 located under the subheading pelvis and hip joint, category repair, revision, and or reconstruction. The osteoarthritis that caused the breakdown of the bone of the hip requiring repair was the reason for the treatment. If the hip replacement was performed for a fracture, it is reported with this code, located under the subheading pelvis and hip joint category fracture. So this might seem foreign to you all, but as you read in the chapter and you look at your diagrams, you will get a better understanding. So they're showing you right here, avulsion, what it looks like, that little break. Simple, closed. This is something simple and closed. Oblique, commuted, open, pathologic. So they have all the different ways, and you look at the tears of the bone. Segmented, spiral, transverse, green stick, impacted. So they have all of the different ways. So it's very important to pay attention to what it looks like. Even though all of this would be documented in the medical record, but you would know what it means. Again, this is this defines closed, open, and percutaneous treatments as follows. So these are the definitions that you would need to know as well. What is closed treatment? Manipulation, closed treatment without manipulation, closed treatment with manipulation, and open treatment. This figure 15.2, realignment and support of nasal fracture. Fractures are divided based on whether the fracture is pathological, which occurred in an area of weakness, or traumatic due to injury. Fracture codes are reported with a 7th character to indicate whether the fracture care was initial or subsequent encounter, open or closed. Open means the fracture has broken through the bone cortex and the bone has been exposed to air elements. Closed means the fracture is not exposed to air. So for quick check 15.1, which code would be reported for a repair of a femoral shaft fracture using an intramedullary rod? Is it A, 27506, or B, 27507? And they explain to you the codes up here that we just read. Which one would occur? Which one would it be? I'm gonna read it again for that quick check 1. Which code would be reported for a repair of a femoral shaft fracture using an intramedullary rod. Look at your pictures. So is it A or B? 27506 or 27507? Somebody's going to answer? Nobody wants to answer? So I'll leave that for you all to figure that one out. And then we're going to go here to the PowerPoints. This will help you better to be able to understand as well. Like I said, if you're having difficulty with understanding what's in the textbook, read your PowerPoint slides. Subsections is divided: anatomic site, and they give you an example: forearm and wrist, then cervix. Used extensively by orthopedic surgeons. Many codes commonly used by a variety of physicians. Extensive notes. So you're going to have so many notes when it comes to the musculoskeletal system in that medical chart. Subsections reflect anatomical sites. Within each anatomical site, subheadings reflects the procedures performed. Many musculoskeletal system codes, such as those used for splinting, casting, and fracture repair procedures, are also used by primary care and family practice physicians. This section of the CPT includes many notes, and it's giving you the questions. So this would help you as well with reading the questions, and they also provide the answer. Why is it important to carefully review these notes? Notes tell you how to use the information to identify any qualifying conditions. Most common: fracture and dislocation treatments, general subheading, arthroscopic procedures, cast and strapping. What types of procedures are listed under the general subheading? Miscellaneous procedures not specific to any anatomical site. Example: incisions of soft tissue abscesses, wound exploration or biopsies of muscle and bone tissue. Fractures. These are the questions to ask for fractures. Site of fracture or dislocation. Type of treatment. Was it open or closed? Manipulation performed and documented. Was traction used? If so, what type? Was percutaneous fixation used? Was internal fixation applied? Make sure this is not included in code description. Was an external fixation system applied? Did documentation support skin closure? And what type of anesthesia was used? So these are the important questions you must ask when a fracture is performed, when it's a fracture. Fracture treatment. Open, surgically open to view or remotely open to place nail across fracture. Open reduction with internal fixation. So this is the abbreviation for this. So you will not see open reduction with internal fixation. It's going to be ORIF. Closed treatment. Fracture site is not exposed by surgical incision. So under the notes, it says fractures are coded by treatment, which may be open, closed, or percutaneous. How do the three types of fracture treatments differ? It's telling you here. How do the three types of fracture treatments differ? Typically, open and percutaneous treatments require surgical intervention, whereas closed treatment many times can be completed without taking the patient to the surgery suite. So this is a question that's one of your daily questions as well, daily assignments. How do the three types of fracture treatments differ? Typically, open and percutaneous treatments require surgical interventions, whereas closed treatment many times can be completed without taking the patient to the surgery suite. Types of treatment depend on type and severity of fracture. Complicated is a code descriptor, may indicate excessive hemorrhage, infection, prolonged physician work, or difficulty in reaching the site or depth of the site. These are the questions that you would need to know, and they'll ask you this as well. Which type of fracture treatment would most likely be used for a green stick fracture? It's giving you the answer, a closed procedure. For an open fracture, an open procedure. What about the other types? Treatment depends on the type and severity of the fracture. So that's how you're going to get the treatment type. Traction, application of force to align bone. This is traction, an application of force to align the bone in its place. The application of pulling force to bring a bone into alignment and hold it there is called traction. Will traction be used with an open or closed repair? Why? With a closed repair, because it is the only option, and an open repair, the bones may be brought into alignment directly, and internal devices can hold them in alignment. So that's when they're pulling that bone together to get it back in alignment. You see the cracked bone that's here? And so with this device, this traction is to pull that bone to get this bone to fuse back together. Skeletal traction. So make sure you're paying attention to the pictures to know which one is. Use of force, distracting or traction force applied to internal device. Example, wire, pin, screw, or clamp inserted into the bone. There are two types of traction, skeletal and skin. With skeletal traction, internal devices such as pins, screws, or wires are inserted directly into the bone through the skin. The protruding ends attached to traction devices that uses weights and pulleys to hold the bone in place. Does skeletal traction require an open procedure? No. The internal devices are inserted through the skin. So make sure that you all are reading and looking at your PowerPoint slides and paying attention to the different types. So right here, when we go back, traction is the application of force to align the bone. Skeletal traction, use of force, distracting or traction force applied to internal device. Examples, wire, pin, screw, or clamp inserted into the bone. Skin traction, application of force by means of adhesion to skin. When skin traction is used, devices are attached to strapping wraps or tapes that are placed around the limb. Force is applied by means of adhesion to the skin. Why is skin traction less stable than skeletal traction? Because the force is applied less directly. Manipulation. Use of force to return a fractured bone to normal alignment. That's manipulation. Fracture repair codes are often divided based on whether manipulation was or was not used, better known as reduction. Manipulation means a fracture has been reduced. Manipulation is a reduction, which is an attempt to maneuver the bone back into proper alignment by bending, rotating, pulling, or guiding the bone. Separate codes are provided for fracture repairs with and without manipulation. Is manipulation always required for fracture repair? Not always. In a simple green stick fracture, manipulation may not be needed because the bones are not misaligned. So we're going to stop there tonight we're going to stop at manipulation. And make sure that you always read your coding shots. It's very important to read your coding shots and where they have in red where it says stop. So your coding shot says if the physician attempts a reduction of a fracture, but is unable to align the fracture successfully, you still report a reduction service. List the attempted reduction service code and then list the more involved fracture. Example, open endoscopic. The physician successfully performed to reduce the fracture with modifier 58. Staged or related procedure service appended. So even if he tried, but he was unsuccessful, you still would report that reduction code. Always read your coding shots. It's very, and they tell you about the traction definitions or as follows. We went over that in the PowerPoint slides. So make sure you read through your chapter, read your chapter 15 PowerPoint slides to get a better understanding because it breaks it down. Make sure you read the gray sections under your PowerPoint slides. It asks you questions in relating to what you just read, and it provides the answers. So make sure that you're reading that information. Make sure in your daily assignments and your labs, you're reading everything in its entirety. Let me stop sharing. Remember, you're reading everything. If you're only answering that one part, you're only going to be graded for that one part. Make sure that everything that says submit or that's in red, you need to process, you need to submit. Also, remember, let me get you who are all on here so I can give you your points for tonight. Remember, again, you can apply your points to whichever assignment you would like, an exam, a lab, a daily assignment, but you must complete your assignments. Quite a few students are not completing their assignments in its entirety. Like you might answer part of one question and not answer the entire question. You might answer part of the lab and not completing the entire lab. Remember, I am reading the assignments. So if it's 2 questions and you submit 1, you're going to get half the credit. I still will give you credit because you did attempt to do the assignment. But remember, this is your career. On a job, you cannot do half the work. If you continue to do half the work, you will be terminated. So remember, treat this as if it's your career. This is why you're taking this course, so that you can get a job, a career in this field. Billing and coding is a career, which is a very lucrative career. So please do not just half step and do half the assignments, because it will show when it's time to that NCCT certification exam when you don't pass. It will show. And then you will have to take it again. In a lot of jobs, you will get the job, but then they'll say pending your certification exam. You know, you can start working, they'll get you on, they'll let you work, but then at the end, you would have to have that certification to get an increase in pay, to get promotions. The certification is extremely important. So please take this, your schooling, take it seriously. This is a lucrative and a very, very promising field right now. If you look on any job sites, any ads, billing and coding is in great demand. So please take your education seriously. If you do not understand what is going on as far as the coding, please call me. We can do a one-on-one Zoom call, just myself and you, if you're having difficulty with understanding the coding process. Remember, if you are a new student, you're not familiar with the coding yet. So just let me know and we can do a one-on-one. If you're still having difficulty with coding, go back to chapter 8 in your textbook, which is the beginning of CPT. And it gives you all the guidelines and the basics to assist you with coding as well. Also, you can go on YouTube to find out for my new students who have not yet labeled their CPT manuals. I've sent several videos on that as well, but you can also go on YouTube to find how to tab your CPT manual. They have little videos, short videos on how to tab your ICD-10 manual, which will make it easier for you to get to the sections instead of trying to flip through each page. You can tab your manuals, which will assist you. So remember, in the gray section of e-learning, you have your news and announcements. Let me share again for those who are still not understanding how to navigate through the system. So here we have the welcome, which was the class expectations and tips for success. This is your roster. These are all of your classmates in your class. If you're not understanding, you feel someone might be able to help you from looking at your Zoom lectures, you can email them from your class roster. Here is news and announcements. This is where I place things at. And when I had on here, Zoom class tonight, 7 p.m. When you had the exam, which was yesterday. No, the exams was today. No, yesterday. This was the preamble, which we were celebrating. This is what the definitions of it. Everything, even though I put it in the Zoom, the gray section of e-learning, I still post a lot of information in your news and announcements. Your coursework shows up here. What's supposed to be submitted. I know who submitted what time you submitted it, and everything. It shows me everything. If you didn't complete your assignment, if you took, it shows everything that you are doing. Here is your syllabus. So if you need to look at the objectives, we're in chapter 15 today. This is chapter 15, fractures. It has all of your objectives that we're covering. You see, it's really short. Then we go into chapter 16. So anytime you need to look at the objectives of what we're covering, you can go to your student syllabus, which is right here. This is your grade book. I cannot click on this because everybody's grades are here. But this is where you look at and see your grades. This is your attendance. Takes a little while to load, but this is where I can see and mark your attendance. So if you're on your Zoom class, you get marked present for being in attendance. So you will be marked present for attendance if you attend your lectures. Even if you didn't complete your assignment that night, you still will be marked present for attendance because you did show for class. Here we have your PowerPoint slides, your Zoom class. All of your Zoom classes for every class that we have held is here. Zoom class, that was your chapter 12, chapter 13, chapter 14, lecture class. So everything, if you need to go back and review and look at something to get some more helpful information, everything is posted in the gray section of e-learning labeled Zoom class. So you will always have that information available. And then I also send you, to make sure, if some people saying they can't get into the gray section of e-learning, I also send you the link in the roster. So you have, I'm sending it different in various ways for you all to be able to get the information. I'm not a mind reader. So if you still are having difficulty, you have to reach out to me. But do remember, once you ask me to open an assignment and you give me, I can't open it for longer than a week. But if you ask me on a Monday to open an assignment and I open it until Sunday, and then you call me that next Tuesday asking me to reopen your assignments, I will not be able to. It's not fair for other students who are submitting their assignments at the correct time. I do understand that things come up. Life happens, family, friends, everything happens. But if you're asking me to open an assignment for a week ahead of time, and I do that, and then you do not complete the assignment, then that's just, that's being inconsiderate because I, gave you that extra time and then you didn't do anything. And you might not be able to complete all of the assignments, but if you even make an attempt, you can do something. If it's one or two and then something comes up and you say, I couldn't complete them all, I understand that. I am human. I do understand that things come up. But if you're asking me to open assignments and then you don't go in and complete anything, I will not reopen the assignments. If you need an assignment open back at the beginning of the chapter, I can reopen it. But when you ask for that day that you say you need, please go in and attempt to do something. Don't just leave it open. It's so time consuming. I'm backed up now with trying to check grades and do labs and assignments because people are constantly asking me, students constantly asking me to open assignments. Then I go back and check on the date that they said they were completed and nothing is there. So I have to go in manually each time this is done and close the assignments. Or it'll close and then you receive a 0 and then I'm getting students to call and say, can you reopen it again? No, I can no longer do that. I keep saying I do not have only one class. So I cannot continue to go back and forth opening assignments. Give a date, I can complete it. I can open it. But I cannot any longer go back and keep opening assignments over and over again and then nothing is being done. So do we have any questions or concerns in reference to assignments, labs, exams, or anything? Oh, and remember, again, my office hours are Monday through Friday, Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5, Fridays, 4 p.m. The weekends, I am off. I'm getting text messages at 12 a.m., 1 a.m. in the morning on Saturdays and Sundays. I cannot receive those calls. I mean, that is very, very unprofessional. First of all, to be texting someone 12 and 1 o'clock in the morning about an assignment. Remember, you can email me and I will get back to you on the next business day. But please do not, I've even gotten phone calls, 12 o'clock at night. Please do not call me on the weekends unless it's an emergency. An emergency does not mean about a daily assignment, an exam, or a lab. That can be reopened. That's not an emergency. But if it's an emergency and something happens, please do reach out to me. But please do not text or call me on the weekends. You can send an email and I will respond on the next business day. I do have 24 hours to respond to text messages and emails. Also, if you are able to submit your assignments in the comments section, and if you're able to upload your assignments, please do it that route. Comment section or upload. If you're unable to do it that way, then please email me your assignments. Please email your assignments. Don't just send them in, not send them in. Please email them. But if you're able to post in the comment or upload, please do so as well. Any questions or concerns from you all? Anything that you all would like for me to do differently in reference to your assignments, your labs, you know, lectures, anything that you all think would benefit you all more, please share that with me. Everybody's so quiet tonight. Nobody wanted to answer the questions. I mean, Jared and Tyra didn't go back and forth with the questions and answers. I mean, everybody's so quiet. What's going on?
Oh Lord, I'm okay. I was just driving, so I didn't have,
You didn't
have
want
my
to fuss with
material.
Jared tonight?
No, Jared got this one tonight. I'm gonna let Jared, be peaceful. We're gonna be peaceful tonight. We gotta let other people, participate.
Jared's still trying to shake back from them hours for the weekend. I ain't woke up yet.
But I don't have any concerns. I mean, only concern I got is I'm hopefully we out this chapter with all them scabs and stuff like that. Other than that, I'm good.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
Them pictures was something else, man.
Oh, I know.
But guess what?
Yeah,
you're going to be looking at that, even though you're not going to have to make a decision, but you're going to look at those pictures because it's going to be in the charts.
I guess.
Yes. And
okay, I guess.
I thought they were beautiful.
Pray on that one.
I thought those pictures were beautiful.
Oh, no, ma'am. No,
okay.
ma'am. No, ma'am.
So you were scared to look at them when you were trying to code? But I mean,
I
was scared to see them when I was cold and eating.
I had my coworker, her face was balled up when I showed her them pictures.
Decosia, Antonia, Alexis, anything? You all have anything? Any comments?
No. No, ma'am. I just had a rough couple days, that's all.
Ooh, Tuesday is really doing y'all in, huh?
It's just that false labor. That stuff take it out of you.
Yes, yes. Alexis, you have anything going on? Alexis probably can't tell. Well, okay, then you all. Thursday, we will be doing a review for, see this chapter is only 3.5 days. So, you know, chapter 15 is only 3.5 days because your exam is Friday. So these chapters is like given, that's why I highlighted and make sure you read the PowerPoint slides. You're only going to need the basic information on how to code. A lot of this information in these chapters that we're doing now, the doctor is basically going to be putting all what they're doing in the medical chart. You're going to have to know how to pull that information and get the correct codes to have the most benefit for the billing. You know, you want to get the most out of everything that's in that chart. So that's going to be your part when it comes to this information. That's why these chapters are going by really, really fast. So you all enjoy your Tuesday night. Since you all are so tired and worn out, enjoy your night. Have a good and safe week. Yes, Jerry?
I got a question. We able to get our books on 2 devices. Who do I talk to about that?
Wait, your phone was going in and out.
We able to get our books on 2 devices. Who do I talk to about getting it on a second device because it wouldn't let me upload it to my iPad?
So you still should be able to do that once you log into Evolve. You
When I
talking about
logged
your
into it, it told me
e-learning?
that I had to. No, not the e-learning. You know how our book that I have it on my phone, but I just bought an iPad and I tried to put it on my iPad, but it wouldn't let me do it. It's telling me that I have to purchase the book again.
No, you shouldn't, but you know
Did
what?
you
It might be
redeem
the
the code?
iPad. Some people have
Okay.
difficulty with the iPad, but you should, but let me give you contact support. Yes, so it's support, SUPPORT at unitechta.edu.
All right.
So contact them and
Unitech
explain
TA.
to them what's going on, and they should be able to assist you.
All right. Thank you very much.
So, okay, so you
Appreciated.
all will get 10 points for this. So make sure
No,
you're
no,
keeping track of your points.
no 15 today.
No 15, you working hard. And guess what? You would not get 15 today. Y'all didn't even answer the first question. I had no participation. So of course
See,
not.
Derek, you're gonna make us lose our 10
Yeah,
points.
I'm about to go down to
My
4.
bad. My
Oh.
bad. My bad. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm about to move it to 5. Wait a minute.
No,
Derek, ain't
no,
time
no.
for you to log off, Derek. Go ahead, log off. Log off.
So
Go
you all
ahead.
enjoy, stay safe, and I will see you all on Thursday for our review for chapter 15 on Friday. Remember, exam is due on 2 exams due Sunday, 14
All
and
right.
15. Enjoy your night. Good night.
All
Good
right.
night,
Good night.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night.